Good morning, great morning. Animo. Happiness, basically.
Bueno, pues
Well,
hoy,
today,
como cada
as
martes
every Tuesday
de cada 15 días,
of every 15 days,
corresponde informar
it
sobre
is
seguridad.
our duty to inform about security.
Un martes es salud y otro martes
One Tuesday is health
de modo que
information and
vamos
the other
a iniciar
security. So we're going to start with the information,
también se va
and at the end
a informar
we will be
sobre
informing about
la capacidad
the capabilities
del aeropuerto Felipe Ángeles
of the Felipe Ángeles Airport. We had
sobre su capacidad
spoken about that,
el manejo de carga.
about the cargo management that we were speaking about.
Adelante.
So let's talk about that. With your permission, sir.
Muy buenos días.
Good morning.
Para dar el informe de seguridad conjunto del
So that I can provide the security information
febrero de este año.
document for up till the dates. When it comes to agents and soldiers displayed on the ground, there's approximately 250,000 of them, and one of them is 66% are operative, and the rest are 61,000 is 24% logistic procedures. You can see all the aircrafts and vehicles that we utilize for all the information. When it comes to personnel stretched out, we have more than thousands of elements. And when it comes to the state right of states, when it comes to the sea, air, and land, in the period that we're speaking about, there was 350 operations at sea. Land was 390 operations of security and installation, strategic installations, and 430 of vigilance, of illegal fishing, and a total of 1,170 operations with 300 elements displayed. There is verification, visitings, inspections, and functions of the Coast Guard. There are 167 vigilant units. 20 of them are specially to the sea, and the rest are for naval members. And you can see all that has been done in patrols and recognition walks in areas that we have done. The customs, the sea customs, has encountered 59% of the capturing of illegal substances, and we have 2,480 employees on that. Strategic coordination in the airport of the Mexico City area is a practice of users and training to the personnel, and what we have accomplished is confidence, security, efficiency, and quickness on paperwork and migratory controls as well. There's 1,500 elements displayed, and these are the results that we've gotten when it comes to medical attention, and when it comes to strategic and security personnel, what we accomplished is detentions. In Gustavo Madero was an arrest of one individual that Colima, Jalisco has received, and the elements that participated in the homicide of the director of fighting against kidnapping. Continuing on that note, on the 28th of January, there was the detention of this element that had a request, a warrant in the U.S. And the next, for the theft of fuel, we got arrest of a couple of ships that had 25,000 liters and 28,000 liters appropriately carrying on those boats of illegal fuels stolen. When it comes to Amapola and the opium plants areas, we have taken an area of 159,000 square miles and a weight of 300 grams approximately per area. We've gotten a destruction of approximately 1 million plants eliminated. When it comes to securing movements, Guaymas, Playa del Carmen, Empalme, Guaymas again, Lázaro Cárdenas, in Acapulco, Tecomán, Isla Mujeres, with a total of 23 weapons confiscated, 13 vehicles, 168 kilograms of marijuana, and 1,600 doses of illegal substances. The second is a seize of cocaine, a major cocaine seize in Tapachula, Chiapas. There was a warehouse that was contaminated. We accomplished a warrant and we seized 203.55 kilograms of cocaine. And in the next revisions that we do in Tamaulipas, there was 90 kilograms of marijuana, and in Izcatepec, Mexico, we managed to get another vehicle with 70 kilos of marijuana and other substances. There was also a seize of chemicals so that fentanyl could be made. Right here in the airport of the city of Mexico, we managed to detain 304 kilograms of white powder, where you can make more than 3,040,000 doses of fentanyl. We also got a substance detention that is not included in the list, that is not illegal, basically, to move around, but we are going to start the fixing of this law so that part could be illegal as well. And other parts of the country where we detected in a boat that arrived to Manzanillo, there was a few containers unloaded, and through that we managed to detain 15 containers with 200 pounds each, 200 kilos each, containing 3,138 pounds of illegal substances, of suspicious substances, and we got a permit for Cofepris that we noticed and realized that it was a substance of propionil, that is a substance that is a fentanyl substance chemical. When it comes to the use of intelligence at sea, we managed
Eran dos embarcaciones menores, una que era la que le llevaba el combustible y la otra que la que traía la droga.
We managed to stop a few ships. There was 11 detained, Mexican and 4 Ecuadorian citizens. There's also sufficient information that we've gotten from 2021 to 2023, 140 supposed responsible persons to a total of 268 detainees. We have liberated a few people for insufficient proof, and evidence. When it comes to narco trafficking and combustibles, there was 95 people released, 6 judges that did those liberations, and public ministries, 2 of them. In the problematic of the naval vigilance, there's a few negative situations from the courts and the judge members that are not doing enough so that we can get more information about. We've gotten more information about people that have been a part of 2 or more events, illegal events. We've stopped 24 people in total so that we can find out what's going on. And on the next one, when it comes to search and rescue of life at sea, the Marines count with 33 stations of search and rescue, 22 in the Pacific, 11 in the Gulf of Mexico. Secretary of Defense counts with a center of search with 19 subcenters. When it comes to the Marines as well, there was 60 operations, 848 people involved in those operations, 50 various rescues, and 20 medical evacuations. They also have 91 elements displayed throughout those areas and 21 rescues, aerial rescues. When it comes to the transseismic, 3 sections that are being rehabilitated, there are more than 4,900 elements operating. And at the end, when it comes to COVID, with the different plans, 518 patients taken care of, and the vaccines applied, 114,581 for assistance. The humanitarian assistance to the Chilean country. The first part of the help arrived at 4:25 of 6th of February in Concepcion, Chile, with 120 members of the armed forces. 30 of CONAFOR, they are flying in an Air Force plane with 11 people helping them out. And they have received, in coordination with authorities of Chile, the information of what's going on and the system that they will be utilizing so that they can be helping out in a better way. Today, midday, there's going to be the second team with 150 members of CONAFOR to go with the assistance of humanitarian assistance. And about that to Turkey, this party is confirmed with 93 elements of the armed forces, 37 of the Marines, 15 of the Red Cross, and public relations, international public relations, 5 of them. There's 747 from the Air Force, that will be used to make that travel. They're flying to Turkey at the end, approximately 20 hours of flights, but there's also the stops that they have to do. For refueling and such. This is a flight path for 14 countries, of course. We needed to get the permission and the corresponding permits to fly over. Some of the pictures here with the forces that are going to Turkey. And that is all. That is all, Mr. President. Mr. Bucio, General Bucio will be speaking now. Good morning. from what we need to do from the 26th of January to the 6th of February. Institutions of the government of Mexico that make these possible, of zero impunity, we are including the Secretary of Security and the prosecution offices of the states, people retained in the federal realm, 12,264 detained, and 11,000 of them, 11,938, presented to the ministry. On that same period, there was two members of Cartel de Sinaloa, Benjamin and Veronica. They were required to show up in Georgia for the delinquent association and money laundering. We have the case of detention of Claudio Eugenio N. in Altar, Sonora. This, of course, for the delinquency of threatening against a person that is selling on the streets, harassing. This event was videotaped and published on the social media, and you can tell the abuse that was made to this person, and this allowed us to identify and detain this person. We also have the detention of local drug sellers, product of a seize and in Naucalpan. Apparently these are from the group known as alias El 20, Mr. Arturo N. The detention of a multi-homicide serial killer, Hector N. alias El Negro. He's been at large for 13 years. He is being detained for the murder of 23 people, and one of them was the commander of the police, local police there. A supposed leader of Los Mexicles, Urbano N. He was detained in the city of Juarez. The supposed leader of Mexicles, he was in command after the death of Ernesto Alberto Piñón de la Cruz, alias El Neto, who was one of the people that escaped from jail on the 1st of January of this year. In Michoacán, there was a detention of a homicide person that killed a investigation officer of Javier Hernandez, who was the director of the investigation police. His detention was made after, the day after that homicide. And when it comes to how the situation is of the escapees from the Chihuahua jail on the 1st of January, up to date, 6 of them have died, 14 have been recaptured, and there's still 10 at large. Of the relevant operations coordinated for the Marines, there are 88 operations, relevant operations. The results are 108 weapons, 299,000 pills of fentanyl, and 557 kilograms of cocaine. This event we have spoken about. It was the airplane that was coming from South America and landed in San Quintin, Chiapas, with 270 kilos of cocaine. This is also from the event that was seizure of cocaine hidden in banana peels. There was 246 kilograms of cocaine. The vehicle driver was also detained there, and then the seizure of Nuevo Imperio cartel in Estado de Mexico and Michoacán, Cesar N., second in command of this organization, and Alan Misael N., logistic operator of the same. As well in Sonora, there was 435 kilograms of methamphetamines, and the driver was also detained. On the operation coordinated by the Marines, we have 29 detainees due to those assaults, 484 kilograms of cocaine, 3,442 chemical precursors of fentanyl, and this was in Quintana Roo. And we want to clarify here and inform that in the shipments had a total of 12 packages. From them, the Marine Secretary recuperated, and as the ship members noticed us after them, they threw out many packages, but we're still working on finding all of them. As well as sicarios of La Plaza en Guaymas, Sonora. This is product of a report due to a report that there was a fight with long weapons, and sicarios of that organization that operates in Guaymas, Sonora was detained. We have also the detention of one person with a warrant in the U.S., Jesus Guadalupe. Nationality is from Texas, with a request of arrest on that same state for homicide. We also have in the Estado de Mexico Juan Carlos N. and Ana Karen for kidnapping of the parents of Juan Carlos N. Also being processed in Jalisco, Axel Adrian N. This one due to kidnapping against the person that is involved in the meat industry. Ernesto alias Tinajero, who was detained and being processed with narco trafficking, as well as the fuel selling, since when we stopped them, one of the addresses was of Ernesto alias Tinajero, and on that same address we had a illegal tube subtracting fuel, and in Quintana Roo as well, Angel N. for trafficking people in pornography in the level of a minor. Sentenced to 50 years in prison, this due to kidnapping in Estado de Puebla, these 6 people, against a woman and a man, when 9 years ago this happened in Atlisco, Puebla. A sentence of 60 years in prison of Ángel and Isabel in the Estado de Veracruz, committed against their own baby. 80-year sentence, Prisciliano in the state of Morelos, for violation and sexual abuse of a minor in Cuautla, Morelos. In this period as well, we have detained 31 people, a few of them here, and sentenced 12 of them already. And we also want to inform that there are still operative and search of José Noriel Portillo Gil alias El Chueco, for who the prosecution office in Estado de Chihuahua is offering up to 5 million pesos, who will give us information to allow his capture. There's 31 detainees as well in that area. Jose Noriel is El Chueco is a supposed responsible person for of the death of the Jesuit members in the state of Chihuahua in Seriocawi. A few of his main assistants that have been detained already next to him. When it comes to the journalist Luis Enrique Ramirez Ramos, who was ultimated in the Estado de Sinaloa, the prosecution office in that area has provided a 1 million ransom in Mexican pesos, who provides us information with the detention of those two of these responsible of these murders. When it comes to the information about the journalists, we have the same details of the presentation, the previous presentation, and that should be all, Mr. President. With your permission, Mr. President, we're going to be showing you a few reports in this 15-day period that we are providing the report of the security report. And this is the information of regularization of vehicles coming from the U.S. Up to date of the 19 of 2022 of March, there's 1 million over less than 2 million of vehicles normalized. It is important to notice that this is being done to give judicial secureness and to avoid the vehicles that are not regular or illegal are being used to commit crimes. There are 143 modules installed in 14 different parts of the states under the command of Mr. President Lopez Obrador, and these states are normally used with this program, and this program will end on the 31st of March. It is important to mention that so that people can rush and do their paperwork to get these vehicles fixed. In these 143 modules, there's been 1,170,579 of regulations done already. And in the case of Baja California, Chihuahua, and Tamaulipas, these are the places where there's more regulations done per state. These states have the 53% of the total of the 14 states. We also want to remind you that the payments and charges is of the 2,500 per vehicle that finally, at the end, are being used in the everyday activities of the families of these states. With the obtained resources we've gotten from them, we've paved a lot of roads that these programs are working on. It's always to fix and cover and protect the roads. And today we have the information about pre-liberations. These presentations are the totals of amnesties, and according to your instructions, Mr. President, let me inform you that we maintain the information of the amnesties of people that have not committed grave attacks, or for people that have found themselves with difficult situations. Up to February 3rd in 2023, there's 4,461 liberations, and 243 amnesties. In the case of pre-liberations, are for elderly people, women, people that are sick, as well as indigenous people, and some that accomplished the requirements per law when it comes to amnesties for women, for people that have a permanent disability, or indigenous, or victims of torture and intimidation or discrimination. In total, there's been 4,704 that were jailed and were released. And also provide the last details of this program that you instructed us to coordinate with the Hacienda Secretary and Defense and Presidency of the Secretary of the Presidency. We are also working with the Tianguis of Bienestar, the Market of Bienestar. What is this about? So, the items that were seized from delinquency members and that are usable, new, they are given to communities that are marginalized, that need them. There are also items turned in as new items like shoes, tennis shoes, clothing, and are being given to these people under instructions of the presidents. For example, the 20th of February, Tianguis of Bienestar will be back on in Oaxaca. There's going to be 78 municipalities of the areas, as you can see. You can see the dates where we will be as the customs agency and the institution to refund or return what was stolen from the people. And so we are coordinating with the municipalities and in this case with the governor of the state of Oaxaca. And after we're done with this, and as well, we have been instructed we will continue in the mountains of Guerrero, Sierra de Songolica de Veracruz, and Chiapas as well. So we will be working on these programs for the attention of the municipalities that are further from the cities. So we need to speak about the airport as well. We have a video, Mr. President, where we will show the capabilities that the International Airport Felipe Ángeles has with the cargo. This video has been considered as well. The important installations that are established there, but we're going to be showing you the video primarily of the system of cargo, the capabilities of that we are being capable of doing now, and the information that could be the projection of next works that we have to the development of this installation, strategic installation in Mexico. The International Airport Felipe Ángeles, located in the Northeast, is a complex of international levels that is enough to move cargo and people, amongst others. Under this area, the principal installations are the Terminal 1 military installations and helicopters as well. Also a terminal for cargo, and important location, and it turns it into a unique one in all Latin America with standards similar to the most developed countries in the world. In this terminal, we have the capability to transport up to 20 million passengers. There's 28 positions of contact, 12 of them are remote and 5 locations of semi-contact, which proposes facility to take 45 different airplanes at the same time. This location, military location for their strategic spot, is the biggest one and most important in the country. What furthermore, we got parking areas and a center of warehouse of 500 tons to apply DNA3 of help in anywhere in the Republic, as well as providing humanitarian assistance in different parts of the world. The installations of the bases of mixed operations of general implementation, they are destined to provide the airport services complementary to the commercial and the private executive, international and national locations. This area is 270,000 square meters of offices, and there's a platform with 41,000 meters to expose area for a plane parking, and an airport with 26 positions with a hangar of maintenance and warehouse. The cargo terminal is 345,000 square meters, which is equals 48 to 48 fields of football soccer. 12 locations that are with the prosecution, if needed, and difference of the rest of the airports in the country. There's one location that is mentioned to switch cargo, and it's considered that this is enough, that this complex has the infrastructure to be sufficient for the necessities that we have for short and long situations. Of all the international cargoes coming into the international Mexico City airport to the Felipe Ángeles airport. As you can see, in 2022, international airport in Mexico City received an average of 250,000 tons dedicated to cargo. Meanwhile, the Felipe Ángeles airport was used with an installed capability to receive 443,000 tons per year. The prosecution building, completely equipped with the certifications as well, up to date, has the capability to receive 20,000, counting with a projection of 5 months, for up to 120,000 tons. That guarantees the continuity of the chain of communication, and this also is capable to receive any type of cargo. That also counts with a freezer and a biometric system that permits and allows the control of access to the operation areas. This specialized warehouse is the most modern, equipped, and secure and unique in the airport systems. 12 of these warehouses are including altogether with 46,000 meters of area and managing a total cargo of 423,000 tons for this 2023. Of these buildings, 4 of them are certified and equipped to operate in a fast way, and the rest will be in the same conditions once the companies that are assigned to them finish their paperwork, so that it can be adequate to their businesses. Another location of cargo is that in the long run, it will confirm the master plan of growing the infrastructure to take up to 3 million tons per year. At the same time, and as it's evident, it will be decided increment of the security levels and control of exportation and importation that are moved in this area. The switching areas have two fields of the constellation and the distribution. In the regulation field, there's 90 locations to park vehicles of different sizes that will transport cargo with exportation and importation materials, ensuring that the process of cargo is efficient and sufficient. There is a system, non-inclusive, that the vehicles can go in and out of the cargo area. The passing of these vehicles of the system looks to find substances that are dangerous and illegal. And in the second level, there will be different and aleatory checks, and this will continue directly to the buildings for the process of exportation. The legal routes becomes true when it's created in the offices of the customs location, and for that there's security personnel and equipment that we have for the agents of the customs area, as well as in the processes of exportation. All this importation will follow the same process of revision and security, not intrusive. In the next of 13th of February, will continue with its operations of 6 weekly frequencies by Viva Aerobus, and at the same time cargo jet company Airbus up until the 28th of February will do cargo flights 6 times per day, and on the 26th Ethiopian cargo will also do 2 flights per week from Spain. With all this, you can determine that the cargo area of the International Airport Felipe Ángeles counts and is capable of counting with the certifications and processes sufficient to guarantee the high standards of continuity of the supplying chain. And this can be used in the future and control of the merchandise that go in and out of the country, contributing to the development, national development, and in benefit of the people of Mexico. All right, so we got a bit more to go. This Monday, 6th of February, the trial against Genaro Garcia Luna in New York, there was Héctor Villarreal as witness during the gobierno of Humberto Moreira. This person stated that he approved commissions and stated fake receipts of the then governor Humberto Moreira that used this illicit to pay off media, buy properties, airplanes, radio stations, and television stations. Villarreal also affirmed that 2005 and 2010 they obtained $200 million in commissions. Of those, the governor then kept $40 million, and the other 8 people involved received $2.5 million each. The witness declared that Genaro Garcia Luna looked selling the software of spying Pegasus to the governor of Coahuila and solicited help to Humberto Moreira to obtain a closeness with Juan Francisco Elio Ortiz, who was the owner of El Universal, with the intention to clean his image. And the Secretary of Defense and Public Security stating that Garcia Luna had been kidnapped due to narco trafficking. Villarreal stated that Gil Ortiz and Garcia Luna came to an agreement where the Secretary of Defense then had to pay 25 million pesos a month to El Universal so that they can give him the backup. The witness stated that he himself operated the closing of that agreement in Mexico City in the offices of El Universal together with a worker of Garcia Luna of name Sergio Montayo. He added that Montayo asked them for help to make a payment with the money of the state of Coahuila. The prosecution office, as evidence, showed the receipt that had the date of 24th of June in 2009, and under subject Campaña de Rescate, or Campaign of Rescue, there was 11.5 million of Mexican pesos. There was also a receipt of the regular payments of 25 million Mexican pesos. Villarreal also declared that he was jailed in the U.S. during an 8-month period and had gone out under paying his freedom. And when he said that when he arrived in the U.S., he had a servant and all the receipts that he had with him. During the counter questioning, defense lawyer stated concentrated her questioning with his immigration status and all the information he still has to claim. At the start of the audience, the judge informed both parts that will not accept the proof's supposed payoffs to the medias, in specifical to the Universal. And nevertheless, after a few hours, he changed his mind, stating that he will accept the proof after knowing that the information was concrete and specifically related to the case. During yesterday's audience, there was also the questioning of Testigo Francisco Cañedo Zabaleta, ex-federal cop, that claiming he saw Arturo Beltrán Leiva and La Barbie with him, with Genaro Garcia. He also questioned that he turned his report to an opposition person and that his motives were political. Cañedo also stated that the only person that was shown that letter, he's done it to a lot of other people and nobody noticed it. Manifestation that the only woman that did her job was Laida Sansouris. The defense refuted that testimony, asking him why didn't he go to help Garcia Luna while he was being surrounded by criminals like the Barbie and Arturo Beltrán. He stated that at the beginning he thought about it, but he noticed that nobody was doing anything to him or trying to kidnap him, but actually it was just a reunion or voluntary talk. At the end of the audience, the prosecution called Anthony Blair, ambassador in Mexico between 2015 and his declarations when it declared that he reunited with Garcia Luna, and in those reunions there were also Cárdenas Palomino and Ramón Pequeño were there. He confirmed that Garcia Luna would take difficulty to speaking fluent, given to his nickname that he has, El Tartamudo. And he also usually went to Garcia Luna's house, but he does remember he had an aquarium of seawater, the biggest seawater aquarium that he's ever seen. The audience will continue tomorrow, and one of the expectations is Edgar Guiña. The one that was pending from yesterday. Marquez, articulista with education and masonry. About this last situation that we've been speaking about President Madero, ex-President Madero. We sent your assistant a document where the Masons are trying to ask you that this group is still working for more than 100 years, can participate in the commemorative March of the 23rd of February, if there's a possibility, they want to work together with your departments. That's one message, and I'll be asking the questions after. Yes, about the request, yes, they're invited, of course. On the 23rd, we're going to be taking care of a memorial act. That was the old office where he was at. President Madero, Vice President Pino Suarez, before we were pulled out, we were getting pulled out to get assassinated, unfortunately. We're going to have an act of those on the 23rd to invite the people that can represent this group. Now, my questions, as it was said before, there's no facts without context. I want to refer of the teachers that were seized from their duties that are still pending from last year. There's two groups of teachers, the ones that were sent to judgment or trial, and the ones that were simply seized. Up to today, there are 68 teachers that were seized, pending. Who's taking care of them? On the end of Secretary Mario Lugo Estrada and Mr. Ramirez, and they have not received any information. There's 10 in Campeche, 115 in Jalisco, there's 8 in Quintana Roo, 4 in Querétaro, and it's not the only couple or group that was affected, and it's still pending. In the case of Querétaro, 4 of them, Rosa Maria and Jerónimo, were presented by you in 2019 in Querétaro, and most of those cases are still pending. In Campeche, there's 10 seized of the last administration. The workers there tell them to go to the states. The states don't have the funds because the funds are supposed to be federal. And that reform and that law changed in 2019, and we're almost to May 2023, and still the same. One of the teachers asked me, made you a claim in social media, and it's still there. And this teacher, Manuel Lopez of the Cente Peninsula, assured Mario Lugo of the Secretary of Education that the teachers that were seized, that Mr. President doesn't know what he's offering in the negotiations, nor the consequences. And for that situation, these cases are not being solved. This is not my claim. I am just the medium to tell you about this. And at the same time, I asked another worker, to one of the workers that was seized in Campeche, Francisco Salvador. He confirmed that there are witnesses, and he says, yes, there is no response to that. Who is he? He is the grandson of one of the families that I was telling you about, and he lives in Tabasco. He worked for your family. His grandfather of your mother, Manuela Obrador. Like these groups, there's a lot more of teachers seized that there's no resolution for them. I hope the Secretary of Education, Plasencia and Rubalcaba, and accountant can also resolve these cases. You indicated that Oscar Flores would be attending, and last night they don't even know him. You sent them over, but they haven't even spoken to him. And the last part of this question, if there was any indications for the secretary workers that take care of these cases. This is a compromise that you had as first level, but they're still pending. I hope that there's a strong command that this gets resolved. You're going to be thanked by these families, and among other cases, there's also of a director of Coatzacoalco that was fired for irregularities. It ends up that she is teaching from home, and the workers asked the intervention to get this resolved. Up to that one, this first question, if there's a way to resolve this in a radical way, and that the teachers go back to work. Yes, so
da la impresión pues como que no estamos cumpliendo con nuestros compromisos. Yo te puedo asegurar que si quedan esos casos son una minoría.
The way you're putting it, I can see that there's an inconformity on that, and I can assure you that they were removed in different locations and sent to different other locations with this so-called called reform of education that was made back then. So hopefully we get Oscar Flores by phone, that he can tell us how many teachers were fired, have we reinstated, and how many others we still need to reinstate. Because it gives me the impression, what you're saying, that we're not doing our job, and that we're just speaking and saying things, and that we're liars. So let's clear that up right now. It is probable that there's still some still needing assistance, but they're the exception, not the rule. I just came from Querétaro, and yes, there was 4 of them. There was 4 teachers, and at that same place, I gave the instructions to take care of them, to get taken care of the Secretary of Education, and supposedly today they will receive them. Yes, because I have to tell you this like that, because everybody's watching us, millions. And so the compromises are dealt with, and we're not the same as the ones before that were not dealing with, and not only not doing anything, but they would fire the teachers, they would reprehend them, deprive them, and jail them. This is something else. In that time, the leader of the conservative bloc, Claudio X Gonzalez, was the one that would use them and use the government to reprimand the teachers. As you well said right now, it's Bakhtin, the theoretical one, that holds up that there is no text without context. So we're dealing with it like that. So let's see what Oscar says about that. But continue with the second question. Yes, so accountant gave some information about this last year. We have the information. And I told you that there were some exceptions. There are a few resignated ones. I noticed it for you on my last intervention. And that was almost 8 months ago. And of course, I don't. The way you're putting your question is maybe they didn't hear us back then, and people are going to say, "Oh, what's going on?" So you're not doing anything for your teachers. The petroleum syndicate went to elections last year because they didn't have a leader up to the retirement of Romero de Champs. I asked you on that intervention that CENTE, the syndicate of teachers, doesn't have a leader because Juan Diaz de la Torre is renounced. And we're speaking about the same lack of leadership. The petroleum did go CENTE did not 2 elections. When I asked you back then, you offered to ask for information to the Secretary of Work and to resolve it. If the question is if you can allow me a copy of that resolution to see the difference between both of those unions, and if there's going to be an incident being done to the rest of your presidency. What's been happening out of 60 different locations, 30 of those, all the elections have been impugned. Veracruz, Nuevo León, and impugned all of them. And others willing already to be impugned. And we have to finish the syndicate information so that it can be shown to the tribunal. This takes about 4 years to resolve. It is irrelevant. The resolution is irrelevant because the terms of presidency are 4 years. So in this second question, are there going to be elections in the El Cente? And the question also that Secretary of Work Secretary can intervene to the President Plácido Morales Vázquez to accelerate these resolutions of the sectional impugnations. Yes, we're going to ask Luisa Maria to give us some information. From what I understand is, just as well as you're expressing, that there are some elections, sectional interventions, but there's still the national elections. We need to see what the process is that they're applying and see what's going on in the tribunal. We're going to be asking both Luisa Maria and Plácido Morales. 1,059 teachers that had been reinstated. And we're going to be looking at the ones that we're still missing. That's the instruction that they get taken care of. And that we can get an explanation as to the case and the cause they have not been reinstated. Okay? All right. Sandra Aguilera, Grupo Larsa Communications. President, so you're looking for a way that the tickets for the airplane flights are cheaper, right? And especially with the costs going up as the flight or the trip gets closer. The convenience of Chicago references this and states that everybody has the right to deny the airplanes of other states with permission to embark cargo or passengers to transport them through renting to other points situated in their territory. You sent an initiative to modify the law of civil aviation, and so the Mexicans can open up to international airlines. My question is, how will we get back our indicators, being that this will be, are we going to stop receiving income from the tax imposed to those companies? You speak about lowering the prices to benefit the people and the users. Nevertheless, there's been incrementation of tax of the airports. These taxes will be lowered as well. And in this scenario, what can the Mexican flight companies can do to avoid bankruptcy that will be added up to the loss of work as well? Will this be also be affecting the taxis, ambulances, and private aviation? That does not exist yet. There is no initiative yet in that sense. we're talking about that the owners of the airplane flights, they don't want to compete. And so that's because they're influencers. They've gotten a campaign going. But we're still giving first steps. We're requesting the use of airports, since the airport was not constructed in Texcoco and there was saturation, deliberately saturated the International Mexico City Airport, closing the Tolucan Airport. So the airport of Mexico City was saturated due to that. So now we build Felipe Ángeles Airport, and since they're mad because they could not do their business anymore with the failed airport of Texcoco, so now they're building this whole campaign against the Felipe Ángeles Airport. Ever since that there was a mountain in front, that there was ghosts, that the tower was damaged, and they're still talking about bridges. Something about Claudio Quez Gonzalez speaking about the bridges. The same thing. They're speaking about it. It's become an obsession to them. And so the agreement was made without imposing anything, that the cargo went to Felipe Ángeles, and officially, legally, not the airlines that transport, because even by writing they expressed that they agreed. They started a campaign that they weren't going to be switching to Felipe Ángeles Airport. That's what we're doing. That's what we're informing. If the city's airport moved 200,000 tons, Felipe Ángeles Airport has the capability of 400,000 tons, the double. But it has other benefits. First, that has railways. Another thing that is really important is to resolve the situations of heavy traffic in the actual airport. But there's something deeper that has not been expressed here. Because it's only, they're supposing for sport. Felipe Ángeles Airport lets us orient the growth of public works and people towards the north, towards Hidalgo. And what does that mean? We can actually see this in a map. It means that the growth, public growth, has ability in those locations because we have the land and there's water. In the current airport, what they were going to do, amongst other things, was saturate the east of the city where there's no where there's no possibility of growth, urban growth. So towards the future, there's going to be a growth towards Hidalgo, and that there's companies that want to be installed towards Pachuca to utilize the airport, the new one. So that thing about liberating the arrival of the other external companies so that there's competency, we're analyzing that. Before that, though, we're going to have the new Mexicana de Aviación airline, and we've decided that with that we can equal so that the costs of the flight tickets are lower. If we can equal that, level it, maybe, perhaps, there's no necessity to open. So that there's competence and the prices go down. We have some time still because this year we're expecting Mexicana de Aviación to start flights, and we also have time to resolve about the other things. We're analyzing it. Nevertheless, do you have the... Look, this is what we got so that you can see what I'm talking about. The politician of the liberalism, it's sour. Poor Lopez, they say. Poor Lopez and IFA, his new toy that doesn't work. They are made works that doesn't take flights. An airport so showed off, so obeyed, so muddy and useless. Meanwhile, the International Airport of Mexico City moves 373,000 passengers per month. 373,000 passengers per month, and Felipe Angeles only has 17,000. This is Denise Dresser, isn't it? And it's true. It's 373,000. It's saturated. Airport of the Mexico City area is saturated. And how much are we generating now per month? And just in January, we reported it's a small difference. They're very objective, very rigorous, very honest, these guys. During the month of January, International Airport Felipe Angeles was 187,000 passengers, and up to yesterday, there's 1,130,000 passengers, and supposedly Denise Dresser said 17,000. And this is what is being published by Claudio X Gonzalez. The thing here is they're opposing us, our opposing members, and Claudio is not even supposed to be flying in commercial airlines, is son of Claudio X Gonzalez, who was... All this we need to be repeating, of course. The business
cuando nos
administration
robaron
membership when we were
la
stolen
presidencia de la República.
the
Y él participó
country's presidency, and he
como
participated
delincuente electoral
as a electoral
para
delinquent
imponer a Felipe
to
Calderón.
impose Felipe
Su hijo
Calderón.
desde entonces,
His son, ever since then, Claudio X Gonzalez,
lo apoya,
is backing him
y
up,
como
of
él
course.
ya es una
And
persona
since
mayor,
he is a elderly person now,
el hijo lo sustituyó,
the son substituted
ya
him
se convirtió
and converted into
del
the
bloque conservador.
leader of the conservative bloc.
Él es el que coordina
He is now the
a
one
todos los
coordinating
opositores
all the
a
opposing
la
teams
transformación que estamos
of the
llevando a cabo.
transformation that we're trying to embellish.
Entonces, no es un asunto
So it's not a deal about
pues que tenga que ver con
that has to do
el interés de que
with the
se
interests
beneficie la gente.
of the people being benefited by that.
Señor Claudio X González,
This guy, X Gonzalez,
joven,
the young one, junior, son,
fue el que promovió los
was the
amparos
one that promoted
para que no se construyera el aeropuerto.
the inventions so that Felipe Ángeles was
Pero
not
hablando de
constructed.
los maestros, yo lo decía hace un momento,
But speaking about the teachers, he was the one
de la educación,
that wanted to privatize education,
que estaba en contra
that was
de los
against
maestros
the teachers,
y que pedía la
and
represión.
that he was asking repression of the teachers as well.
Su papá,
His father,
cuando el fraude electoral
when this electoral fraud happened in 2006, went up and said
que si no nos detenían,
that if we couldn't get
no
stopped,
se descartaba
it was not going to be discarded that something was going to happen like what happened in Chile
en
in
1973.
1973.
Es decir, no descartaban
I mean, they didn't discard
lo
a
que hizo Pinochet.
thing that happened like in Pinochet,
¿Quiénes son
a coup.
estos señores que todos
To
los días están en contra
know who these people are that are every day against us and that they pick up money
de
not only from
de traficantes de influencia,
traffickers of influence,
sino hasta de
but even
gobiernos extranjeros
external governments
para financiar toda la campaña en contra nuestra.
to finance the entire campaign against us.
No vamos
We
a reprimirlos,
we're not gonna
censurarlos,
chase them, censor them, deprive them, nothing like that here.
porque
Because
somos respetuosos de la
we are
libertad,
respectful of freedom of liberty, to the right
nada más
to
que
dissent,
vamos a estar ejerciendo
to argue, but we are going to be
derecho de réplica.
making our rights of
Entonces, esa es la
reply.
Sí,
So that's the difference.
una campaña
There is a
en
campaign
contra de el
against the airport,
y va a continuar, pero
and it's going to keep going. But
nosotros vamos a seguir trabajando
we're going to keep
de
working
acuerdo a lo que pensamos.
according to what we
Le
think
conviene
is good
al pueblo de México,
for the people in
a
Mexico,
todos los
to all of us,
poner por
all the
encima del
citizens,
interés
to put above
personal o de grupo,
personal interest or group interest,
interés
the interest,
general,
general interest.
interés
Put that above
de
all
la nación.
of the people and the
De
nation.
hecho, presidente, bueno, en las redes sociales preguntaban lo del cabotaje y al mismo tiempo.
Yes, so media was asking, and at the same time,
el aeropuerto
we're
Ángeles porque lo ven como muy
congratulating the airport because they see it as a good option. But the only thing that they're saying is that there's no promotion as to how to get there. They think they have to ride there in taxi, and they say that there's no information that there's buses that start from the Airport 1 and from Ángel de la Independencia buses that starts from there and take them to the Felipe Ángeles Airport, and there's a lesser charge of the taxes, and that is, they say, that is good that they get that promoted so that people know that there's this type of transportation. The important thing was that there's no overcharging and that there's this option of Felipe Ángeles, and that this is important to know the transfer. So how to get to the airport, there's a whole campaign, and we're going to be insisting in this month, we're going to be inaugurating the extension of a way towards the airport. Can you explain, General, how long it takes? We have 19 locations from Estado de Mexico and Mexico City to come in and out of the Felipe Ángeles Airport with prices of 70 pesos to 250, the most expensive one. It is really important that we also have Mexibus Line 1 from Ciudad Azteca. From 9 pesos you can get to Ojo de Agua, and for another 9 pesos you can get from Ojo de Agua to the international airport. Now, this information, aside from the airlines having it in their web pages, there's also the land transportation, and especially the airport. Their web pages have all that information, including the sites of interest and the services that are being given in that airport. But we will continue doing a more diffusion of the facilities to travel from and to the airport. And Mr. President, in these days we'll be inaugurating additional route free of cost that starts from a point denominated Puente de Fierro, which is the Mexico-Pachuca road, with the Mexiquense road for a 19-minute trip, and from that spot they can arrive to Felipe Ángeles free of cost. And then for the last, and I'm sorry, but this is an important petition from a family of parents of this kid named Ander. His name was Ander because they admired Ander. This baby is small. Manuel Lopez Obrador is stated, the name of the kid, and he has granulomatosis, chronic granulomatosis, that 200 people have them. Every 250 people have that. One of them gets it, and this is a sickness that any bacteria or fungus lowers your immune system, and the only way that this is fixed, and there's a transplant of medullary transplants, and they have to take them to Canada to be able to get taken care of, and so that they can do this transplant. Nevertheless, here in Mexico, we surely have this type of help, and I was commenting this, and that they said that they didn't even know how to do it. So I wanted to ask you if there's a way that he can be saved, because he lives in a capsule and nobody can see him, and he's maintained with medication, with chemotherapy of cancer. So I wanted to ask your assistance. We're going to see it with Dr. Teran. We're going to help him out. If you can go up to my assistant so they can assist him with that.
Jesús Gerardo Cabrera,
Relaxito 4.5 FM News. Mr. President, thank you. We know that you are enemy of the injustices of corruption, impunity, and the poverty, human poverty. But nowadays, we are still seeing that are showing that these events are happening. One of them is a mother of two. This woman, they were attacked in their own address in Villa Nicolás Romero. The supposed 5 prosecution of justice in Estado de Mexico, now that we are boarding the zero impunity, it is really important that we mention this, that 5 elements of the prosecution went in and broke the windows to invade the house with no warrants. This supposedly to detain the husband as he was trying to be detained and as he was arriving to his address. The woman, Karina ZN, says that there was moments of terror, fright, that she lived with his 2 kids, 10 and 8 years old, respectively. She was beaten and with one of their foot on her neck with a gun to her head, asking where her husband was as they left through the back door, and why were they chasing him from one vehicle to another. The other supposed prosecution members pointed his gun to one of the kids and threatened to kill him if they didn't tell him where his husband was. This woman was yelling, asking for help, who came and noticed the presence of those men. The supposed representatives of the law went out shooting and fearing being grasped by the people and attacked. Due to this, the mother has suffered health situations because of it. And with a lawyer, went to the Ministerio Público to make a claim, and up to date, there is still no movement on that. Nor her kids have gotten psychological attention due to this. They've asked for the Istanbul Protocol. She has not received that as well due to the torture, body torture, that was applied to her. She fears her death with tears on her eyes and makes responsible to whatever happens to her and her kids, families or friends, to Jesus Virón Galicia, Andrés Granados Limón, and José Armando González Gama, and 2 minister members that were there. And after 2 years, these people are working inside of the prosecution office of the state of Mexico, and this is just one of the requests that she wants done, and she's asking for assistance that this torture, physical abuse, does not go unpunished. This happened in 2020. The question is, can something be done for her and her kids? Yes. What about her husband? After this went away, and she's alone, and she fears for her life. Her health is not good, and she's asking for your help. Rosa Isela will take care of her. Yes, actually, we've gotten a written report on that, and it's directed to Rosa Isela, so that let's get into an agreement with Rosa Isela, can receive her, and we can speak with her, and we're going to help her out, and we're going to protect her. Yes, Mr. President, thank you. So next is 3 people that are workers, a construction worker, and a carpenter. They have 14 years recluded in a jail in the Estado de Mexico. There was 3 detainees that were brought in. One of them died inside of the jail for COVID after they were sentenced to a 68-year term for stealing in the houses in Nicolás Romero as well and in Estado de Mexico. Mr. President, this is said that this is an injustice because the true authors of these sad events were captured, confessed their crime to detail, in front of the authorities. So much so that when the victim, a woman, was called in to recognize them, she confessed that it was them. And these authors, the gang called the Trompas, were recluded, but the unjustified detainees, they're still jailed since 14 years ago. These are asking for your help so that this case can be reviewed and can be taken care of, because they're one example of injustice and impunity. All these documents have been turned in to the citizenship office. Can something be done with them? Yes, we can take care of that. And one more case, Mr. President, if you can remember, Hinojosa Medina, the elderly man, incapacitated, that his own friend, Carlos Martinez Flores, and his lawyer, Rutilio Cedillo Salazar, with lies, was stolen his house and a workshop in Loma Bonita de Tecamac, Estado de Mexico. And aside that you requested orders to help him to get his house back, he still has not received any assistance, and nobody has called him. And also tell you that the citizenship attention, there was paperwork turned in, requested through the Office of Citizens Attention, and this is proof of fraud, and who sends you salutations. So you're going to be in charge. You're going to talk to him and get into an agreement of the three cases.
Buenos días, señor presidente. Alberto Marroquín Espinosa de JFI.
Alberto Marroquín, JFI Information.
Querétaro es ahora AM.com. Señor presidente, ¿cuál es la situación real de Fonatur?
What is the Fonatur situation? Is it going to be disappearing, or because of the land that Fonatur still has, and that it's been mentioned that they couldn't be sold and they can be considered as a reserve, protected reserve? What can you tell us about what's going on there? Well, we are taking the decision of turning all those Fonatur lands in reservations, natural reservations, protected natural reservations, because ever since a long time the corruption has impaired, and we've gotten land that's been taken of goods of Fonatur that are property of the nation, and we don't want that anymore, and we don't want that to keep going, and we want to protect these goods, because if we don't, we're going to be leaving a temptation for them, so that corruption continues in Fonatur. There's some cases where are really sad. They would even rent the presidential house of Cancun that I don't even use. Of the presidential houses, and they will rent them for parties as well. And they would turn in all these goods from the lands in agreements, fake agreements where there was the traffickers of influences would benefit. Even that field that they bought, Playa Espiritu, like $120 million for that. And the Calderón government. We got in Fonatur, there was this brother that was Secretary of Government, Gómez Mont. They bought him a ranch at Toledo Corro, deceased. They paid him really good. And it ends up being that this is a ranch right next to the sea. It's a beautiful place, but it's not connected. Very far from the airport of Mazatlan. If they wanted to add in tourism, why didn't they buy the airports or the area of Mazatlan towards Mazatlan to make the new Mazatlan as a project? So they purchased in Escuinapan, almost right at the border with Nayarit. I think it was 1,500 acres or so. The thing is that we've been wanting to sell that land. It's not 120, but it's $200 million because they made these installations that don't even work. But it's accounted for as an inversion, as a deposit. We've also paid as maintenance since it was bought. And we can't keep on with that. All those lots are being put up for auction, so that they're not going to be coming in and sell it, underprice it. And a few days ago, so I think I mentioned that when the FOA Proa deal, what was left to the government, they would sell the apartment locations to political families in 3,000 pesos. Full apartments in 3,000 pesos. Now that Infonavit is going to be arriving, they can bring us all that information. We got to keep reminding how they used to how they used to steal, so that this doesn't happen again. So this location, this terrain, for example, it's going to be a natural protected area. And so we're going to be destining 1,500 acres in different locations. For example, in Laredo, La Giganta, natural area, protected. There's we're talking about 20, 30, or even more
Está la famosa bahía de la entrega.
This, you got the famous
Huatulco.
Bay of
Imagínense.
Entrega in Huatulco.
Es la historia.
Just imagine how the history
Traicionado Guerrero.
tells us that Guerrero was betrayed in that location,
Y detenido y llevado después
detained and taken
Oaxaca y
after
fusilado,
to
asesinado.
Oaxaca, assassinated.
Entonces, eso pertenece.
So that belongs to
Y
Fonatur.
junto hay una reserva nacional. Entonces,
And together with that, there's a natural
toda la
reserve.
bahía
And we're going to take that whole bay
también
to be
para
a reserve
garantizar
to
playas,
ensure that beaches, public beaches,
reservas naturales con playas para que
natural
la gente
reserves
pueda
with beaches,
llegar a las playas porque
so that people can get to the beaches,
es
and
difícil encontrar
it's really
playas.
difficult to find public beaches now.
Se esmeraron en privatizar
They
playas, las costas.
privatized the beaches, the coasts.
Entonces esa es la decisión.
They did it really well. So that's the decision today.
Ya el acuerdo. Pero
I signed
haciendo una revisión
that agreement today, but we're doing some
para
consultations
todos los terrenos.
to put all those lands ready.
En
En el caso de Fonatur,
en
In Huatulco,
Baja California Sur, en
Baja
donde-
California South, Baja
en
California,
Nayarit, en donde
Nayarit,
todas
where
las-
there's all these reserves exist,
Cancún, porque ahí es la preocupación
including Cancún,
de Cancún,
because that's
que fueran a venderse los
Cancún
productos a
members
de
or
Cancún.
todo lo que quede,
residents.
todo lo que quede en
Yes,
Cancún, hay
all that in Cancun. There's some parks.
todo el propósito es
The whole purpose is to leave that protected as a natural reserve.
De Fonatur, de cómo-
And what about Fonatur?
quedan muchos otros
Well,
bienes,
there's
por
many
ejemplo,
other goods, like, for example,
quedan fraccionamientos,
there's
y hay
lots,
construcciones,
apartment areas, there's construction,
y vamos a ir viendo.
and we're going to be searching, we're going to be looking at
Tiene
them
campos de golf
bit by bit. There's golf locations
y campos de golf
and golf fields where
cuesta más
there's
el
more
mantenimiento
costs maintaining this that Fonatur has to
que
do
se recibe
than what we receive
por la renta
for the rent
particulares
of particular
de
people
los campos de golf.
of those golf fields. So we need order.
Pero es impresionante
It is amazing how
fueron
they were eating up on
todos los bienes.
all these goods.
Entonces,
So then we're not gonna
a dejar estas
we're not gonna be leaving these options and possibilities of corruption
reserva natural,
as a natural reserve.
nacionalizar
We're talking about nationalizing,
pueblo,
giving back to the people what is for the people,
es de la nación.
what is for the nation.
Eso es lo que vamos a llevar a cabo.
That's what we're going to be doing.
Presidente, perdón. Pensando que ahora que estuvo en
Mr. President, now that you were in Querétaro with Mauricio Curi, Governor,
en los festejos del 5 de febrero,
in the
por cierto,
5 de febrero
el discurso
festotions,
de Krill, que pues era más tendencioso,
they were talking about Krill, that he was a liar, that nobody
su discurso,
in the media is
en el discurso de
stating on his speech, and they were speaking about Santiago Krill and the ministry, just for that commentary, and about the road for Mexico Querétaro. What have you decided, and if you've spoken to the Querétaro, what solution do we have for that section that passes through the urban locations, and many accidents have been happening in that Querétaro road? Yes, we spoke about that, and we do not discard the possibility of construction of the train. We are checking the project. You guys remember that a Chinese company
una empresa mexicana
with a Mexican
iban a construir.
company were going to construct this train.
Hay toda una anécdota sobre eso.
There's a whole thing
¿Quieren que
about
se lo
that.
platique?
Do you want me to tell you about it?
¿O vamos a perder tiempo?
Or are we going to lose time? No, go ahead.
Es que había un empresario
Well, there was this businessman very close
al gobierno,
to the government,
un señor Hinojosa,
Mr. Hinojosa,
y ese con otros empresarios
and him, along with other businessmen, they united
China
to this Chinese
y consiguieron la concesión
they
para
got
construir
the
el
permission
tren
to construct the train from Mexico to Querétaro.
firmaron
They signed
el convenio
the agreements,
y según el embajador,
and according to the ambassador, Chinese ambassador,
entonces, una muy
then-
buena persona
was a good person, by the way,
que había estado en América Latina,
that had been in
estuvo en México
Latin America. He was in
no
Mexico,
mucho tiempo,
not too long.
ya estando yo en la presidencia.
Now that I
se
was
fue
president then,
a
he left
formar parte del
to
gobierno
be a part of the central government
de China.
of China,
Y él me platicó
and he told me
de que ya estaba el acuerdo,
that the agreement
pero
was there,
parece que hubo una oposición.
but it seems like there was an opposition of the United States government,
Y entonces, ante eso,
and so due to that,
los funcionarios mexicanos
these Mexican
dieron marcha atrás
diplomats
al acuerdo,
did not go through it,
cosa que les molestó mucho a los del gobierno chino.
something that was bothering for the Chinese government.
Pues no se hizo,
At the end of the day, nothing did
se
happen.
canceló
It was canceled,
el proyecto.
this project.
Ahora nosotros queremos ver
So now we want to
si terminaron el
see
proyecto
if
ejecutivo,
the executive project was ended
si
or
se
finished,
avanzó
if it was advanced on any
en la
way
compra del derecho de vía.
on the purchase of rights
He estado
to the railways. I've been asking George Nuno of
que
Communications
busque
to look
el expediente,
the
porque si existe el
document,
proyecto
because
ejecutivo
if
y si
that
ya se
project
compró
exists and it's
el
been
derecho de
bought,
vía,
that right of railway
es una
has been bought,
posibilidad el hacer
then there is a
ese
possibility to do that train.
aun cuando
Even
ya nosotros no podamos
when we can't or won't be able to do it,
construirlo,
construct it,
pero sí podríamos dejarlo iniciado.
but we can start it,
Ayudaría mucho
and that would help
a cargar
to
todo el tráfico que tiene esa carretera, que es de las más
fix and cover one of
transitadas,
those heavy roads. It's one of the most transited
tiene
roads in the country, and it has a lot of problems.
la opción
And there's this option
para el gobernador,
that Governor were documented that there
que yo
was
soy de la idea
one more
que ya
lane added to that road, but I think I'm of the idea that that is enough.
muy rebasada, y que lo que se tiene que buscar
And what we need to do really is
la posibilidad del
the
tren.
possibility to make that train.
Ayudaría muchísimo porque es
That would help a lot because it's passenger train and cargo train.
Estoy más por ese proyecto. Estoy,
I'm more for that project.
analizándolo.
Ese
But we're
proyecto
analyzing
que
it.
usted menciona, presidente,
That executive
inició
project
allá en
started
por
in
un
Querétaro
exgobernador
for
Loyola.
ex-governor Loyola. When he finished governor, he went to the transportation offices. They gave him the project to start that, and they could start there, right?
Los antecedentes.
Yes, we're going to be looking for the history of that. Look, when I started to construct being a governor of the Mexico City area and constructed second level for the roads, that was already been spoken. Gutierrez, for example, said that he's a great journalist. I hope he's doing well. That he suffered from repression of conservatives because he was reprimanded and he had to go exile. They had to give him a special visa as exile in the U.S. And he lives there in a strong, precarious situation. He's a victim of repression of the conservative governments. Him, he had a morning show, very important. It was the most listened to program in the city back then. And he would speak about the main freeway here in the city was saturated and started speaking about second levels. And so I get to City of Mexico government and I invited the Jewish community for dinner where the government offices are. Saksaba and other Jewish members, and Engineer Salud, who's passed away already as well. And we were at the table, and Engineer Salud said, well, we have the project to construct the second level of Periférico, the freeway. And he was really interested on that. And we did the project, and I told him, do you have somewhere around there that document? Yes, he said, and he told me that Emilio Escárraga, the father, who passed away already, had asked the engineers, led by him, to do a project with that same proposal, with that purpose, of course, so that it could be charged. And they did it. They showed it to Salinas. Not transit. It was not approved at the end of the day. And Emilio Escárraga got mad, really. And he told them, that's enough. Put that away already. So time passes by, and on that dinner, after the dinner, I told him, well, let's go look for the documents. So he went to look for them, and they were there. And that's where we formed this group. And that's how the second levels of the freeway of the city were born. May rest in peace, this engineer. And as a structuralist, engineer Jose Maria Reubó, one of the greatest engineering bodies, especially as a structuralist. So both of them helped us to finish up the project, and that's how The second floor was originally it was a concession, so it wasn't made for a tariff. But first we were criticized, and then we were copied. And something like that is going to be done. Hopefully, that we find the documents. It could be. I do remember that there were some documents publicly signed this agreement. That's why everybody got mad in China, because they were told, yes, the agreement was signed, and I think 15 days later, I imagine they would have spoken that they didn't like it, so they turned back on it. So it was really bothering for the government, Chinese government. So let's see if we can do something with the Querétaro train. And just to follow up on a few claims, do you remember that there was this embassy in Mexico, of Mexico and Cuba, that is Lazaro's going to get them? Because it's a question that there's other things that I want to talk to you about, but we're going to talk about it later. And it's really nice, Querétaro governor, independently of difference in bipartisan differences and party differences. Of course, in Guanajuato's governor as well. I went to Guanajuato. Are you going to have security reunion with Guanajuato? Yes. Sinue is his name. They're very respectful, of course. Even when we can have differences, but both of them, I'll take advantage to say hello to them. And in Partido Verde, they have a lot of closeness with us, and real good. And he did a great job promoting the arrival of this car dealership for the electrical cars. BMW, for example, that is a investment, really important investments, and the very first location to build these electrical cars, and that governor helped. Generally, governors and governors are really good. We're working together. All this about security, we do it in a coordinated way. We're going to see it this weekend, of course, to the Tren Maya. Next weekend is Sonora. And we're going to keep doing that, visiting in the country as well. For Thursday, which is the March of Loyalty. And Friday, you got the anniversary of the Air Force, 2015? 2015. 915, I'm sorry. And then on the 19th is the Army Day, 1913. And then the 23rd of February is the murder of President Madero, which is as well the date where we're going to be here. The Friday morning conference, we're going to do it in Jalisco,
en Zapopan,
in Zapopan,
porque
because
es el día de la Fuerza Aérea.
it's the day of the Air Force, and we're going to be doing that.
Un evento, un homenaje,
A homage, a celebration, per se.
Sí, sí, ahorita lo vemos.
You can hear the question.
Mande. Gracias. Ya está, miren, es que...
Yes, so, General, if you can tell them. It's a good thing that you asked. 28th of February at 11 a.m. We're going to be having an airplane arriving for DHL, International Cargo, coming from Cincinnati, USA. Because DHL has accepted, I was just informed that they ratified that they would be handling their whole cargo situation in Felipe Ángeles Airport.
Presidente, muy buenos días. Integrantes del gabinete, Adriana Estela
Good
Flores, del
morning,
Instituto Mexicano
Estela Flores, Radio Pública. I want to speak about those accusations, grave accusations of the Secretary of Finance about these bribes that were done in this administration when he was at work, and the forum and the vinculation with the Governor Moreira and Secretary of Defense Genaro Garcia. How do you consider the gravity of these accusations? Was there a replica where this is qualified as a bunch of lies, where the Secretary is only looking for benefits as to his sentence? And the gravity of this, is there, aside from that, is there any investigation according to this connections between Moreira and Garcia Luna? Well, let's wait, because this is not finished yet. We have to wait. And in fact, not make prejudgments. Let's see what has been resolved. The judges, the jury in the U.S., because there's going to be more testimony. Because as well, we need to act with a lot of responsibility in that case, without having to hide anything. We have the elements, of course, solid elements, believable elements, and not make any conjunctures on those. So we're going to wait. Let's not forget that we're still in a trial. So let's wait. Wait and see. And we're going to be able to say a lot of things. For example, yesterday, the ambassador, Anthony, of the U.S. in Mexico, was a witness, but he doesn't say anything. When there was a obvious relationship, and that can be proven, a intimate relation, between
las agencias de Estados Unidos
U.S. agencies and government of Mexico.
y resulta que no sabía,
Now it turns out he didn't know, and that only
pues le llamó la atención la pecera o el
he noticed the aquarium in Genaro Garcia Luna's house. That's the only thing he knew.
Además,
Besides,
para los que
for those that
no tienen todos los elementos,
don't have all the elements,
y sería muy bueno que se hiciera una reconstrucción
and it'd be a good thing to make a reconstruction
sobre lo que se
of
vivía entonces.
of those times, of what was happening.
Embajador que
This ambassador
llegó ayer
that testified yesterday
vino a sustituir a un embajador
came to substitute an ambassador that confronted
Felipe Calderón, que están
Felipe Calderón,
sosteniendo
that has been sustained, that they asked him to leave.
de apellido Pascual,
Last name Pascual, I think.
que incluso está en los cables
That even
de Wikileaks.
it's on the WikiLeaks cables
Entonces,
of then.
y se atrevía a hacer juicios
And he dared to do these
sobre lo que estaba pasando
trials
en México,
about what was happening in Mexico, about the
de
behavior
las instituciones de seguridad.
of these
Entonces,
security institutions.
por eso ayer que
And so,
estamos hablando de que este embajador
yesterday that we're speaking about,
representante de Estados Unidos en México ingresó en
that was a representative in Mexico, the U.S., and came in 2010. I'm sorry,
2010,
2010.
que fue el año
That was the year of more violence,
de más enfrentamientos y
of more confrontations and murders,
cuando se elevó como nunca el índice
when
de
the
letalidad.
rates of lethality
Entonces,
went up
¿cómo que
as never before. So what are they talking about?
no se enteró de nada?
That he didn't know about anything of that?
Que nada más
That he only passed a few minutes with Garcia Luna.
pero todavía
But even then,
hay que esperar.
we have to wait.
A lo mejor también está contemplado
Maybe
como
he's contemplated as a
el
witness
anterior embajador
the other ambassador, the one before him,
Pascual,
Pascual,
que a ese le tocó
that he got.
y él fue muy activo
And he was really active
cuando el enfrentamiento
when the confrontation
en donde
where
perdió la vida o fue asesinado en el combate Beltrán Leiva.
when Beltrán Leiva was assassinated
Una semana de eso,
or murdered
a uno de los
in
marinos
combat,
que ha participado
and
¿sí?
a week after that,
en mi tierra,
that had participated
Paraíso,
in Tabasco,
un
they
combate,
went over
y asesinó a toda su familia.
and killed this entire family.
Y hay esos cables.
So those
Y
cables,
este señor,
that information, and this guy,
pues sí,
of course,
supo muchísimas cosas.
he knew about a lot of things, this governor.
Pero a lo mejor sí lo tienen contemplado, ¿sabes?
But maybe they do have him contemplated.
Y hay que esperarnos.
I'm sorry, not the governor, but the ambassador. The ambassador. Maybe they'll get the other ambassador as well. But they're looking into opening up investigations in base of what is being declared in the U.S.
Concretamente en caso de Moreira.
Concretely in the Moreira case.
Vamos a revisarlo.
We're going to look into it. We don't want to take any decisions without the analysis, reflection, and of course, looking for always counting with proof elements so that there's no fabricated situations. So in about something in Transparencia Nacional and Transparencia Internacional in corruption would mention is 31 in the last 3 years for third place, for the third time in this place, and according to the analysis that this organization does, Mexico is stacked and stuck in corruption. There were some advances in 2020, but posted that there's more firm situation and compromission of the public security departments, as well as other places that need to work together to avoid things like the CEDARMEX, Agua Nitrogenados, and that this can be used as electoral ends in Coahuila and Estado de Mexico, and obviously in 2024. I want to ask you, what do you think about this analysis, that if for you you coincide that there is actions that are missing in the last 3 years, and as well, Mr. President, how is the guarantee looking for the anti-corruption organisms to attack or against other political adversaries? I really don't trust that institution, because those were the ones that remained quiet or qualified very good, those neoliberal governments, those institutions that you're talking about, supposedly anti-corruption. Not even the internationals. Here, nationally, you get participation from Federico Reyes Heroles was there. La Casal.
María Amparo Casal. Es como Claudio.
Almost like the Claudio. What was the organization called? Mexicans Against Corruption. I used to call them Mexicans in favor of corruption. I would call them that because that's what they are. They don't have moral authority at all. So, I don't consider them having an objective vision of what's happening in the country. I can tell you that the fundamental purpose that I lead is to finish with the corruption, and we've been doing it as never before done in decades. I think of the honest governments that we've had, of the post-revolutionary period, the one of Don Adolfo Ruiz Cortines, General Cárdenas, López Mateos, Ruiz Cortines, General Cárdenas, in the 19th century, without a doubt, Lerdo de Tejada, Sebastián, died poor in exile in New York. Juárez, and that's it.
Guadalupe Victoria,
Guadalupe Victoria as well,
Vicente Guerrero,
Vicente Guerrero,
que tenían principios,
that had
pero la mayoría
principles,
muy
but the majority
malos antecedentes
with a very bad
de
background
corrupción
of corruption
o
or
de tolerar la corrupción, de
of
permitir
tolerating, permitting
lo que hablábamos.
corruption. What we were talking about day before yesterday,
Imagínense
just imagine
lo que fue el periodo neoliberal.
what was that neoliberal period.
¿Qué respeto le puedo tener?
That's why I say, what type of respect can I have to that organization towards it that supposedly combats corruption and is in favor of transparency
Se llevó a cabo el
if
saqueo más grande
the sacking, the biggest sacking,
del periodo neoliberal.
was
Y ellos no
taken
hicieron nada.
and they didn't do anything?
¿Ustedes creen que
Do you really think that it was a little bit
que modificaran la Constitución?
that the Constitution was modified?
Modificaron la Constitución
They modified the
para
Constitution
poder vender todos los
to
bancos
so that they can sell the entire bank system that were of the nation,
y se los entregaron
and they gave them up
a sus allegados.
to their close comrades.
A Roberto Hernández,
Roberto Hernandez,
con todo respeto,
with all due
que es la
respect,
historia.
because that's history,
Como no le pudieron dar
since they couldn't
teléfonos de México,
give him the telephone
le
industry,
ganó Carlos Slim.
Carlos Slim took it.
Entonces hasta se quedó molesto.
He was even mad about
Pues le
that.
dieron
So they gave him
Banamex.
Banamex.
Y al que participa en la subasta de
And the
Banamex,
one
en
that
segundo lugar, le dan BANCOMER.
runs for the
Y al que participa en BANCOMER y queda en segundo lugar, le dan el Banco Internacional.
in the
Revisen cómo entregaron los bancos y se van a encontrar con eso.
in the auction was giving that didn't get Banamex got Bancomer,
Pero en la siguiente subasta.
and the one that didn't get Bancomer got the international one. So it was just a shame,
Pero por eso digo
and that's why I say
que no es la legalidad, es la justicia.
it's not legality,
Porque todo esto
it's
era
justice,
legal.
because all of this was legal.
La reforma a la Constitución legal.
That constitution reform was legal.
Todo legalizado. Pero
All of this was legalized, but yes, but what are they legalizing? The sacking of the country,
legalizar la corrupción.
legalizing corruption,
Y la ley es la ley.
and law is the law.
Entonces por eso digo no, la justicia.
So that's why I say justice is a lot better. So
Entregando así
they went up and they ended up turning all this,
bienes pues,
all the goods of the country,
de la nación
of the nation,
a particulares.
to particular people, to
Entonces eso es lo que yo puedo.
owners, and that's what I can
Hacen falta
tell you about.
investigaciones más robustas, presidente.
Aren't there need of better and thicker investigations so they can have better sentences in corruption?
No permitir
No, what we need is not to permit corruption,
seguir
continue
con lo que nos propusimos desde el
with
inicio.
what we proposed to do since the start: zero corruption, zero impunity,
A ver, miren, esto.
and this, of course,
Ya no es blanco, blanco.
it's not white anymore.
Pero espérate, porque es muy bueno el tema. Es muy bueno el tema. No falta nada.
There's nothing left.
Y la corrupción se tiene que limpiar de arriba para abajo.
And corruption needs to be cleaned up from up top to bottom. If the president is corrupt, secretaries are going to be corrupt.
los directores,
The directors are going to be corrupt, and from then on down. And if president permits it,
imagínense,
they allow it.
este,
Just imagine
si se tolera arriba,
if it's allowed in the top.
nada más, ¿cuánto se condonaba
How much was it condoned
de impuestos a los de arriba?
of taxes to the ones on top?
Pues eso es corrupción.
That's corruption.
Pero me puede decir
But they can tell us
un jurisconsulto,
on supposed
no,
consultant, no, it was permitted.
y sí,
And yes, it was.
es una facultad que tenía el presidente
It's
para
a
condonar los impuestos.
way that the president had to
Pero
condone
eso es un acto de corrupción.
tax paying.
¿Cómo le vas?
But that's an act of corruption. How are you going to free a company of taxes
A las grandes
to the bankers, to the great
corporaciones, y le vas a estar cobrando
companies, and you're going to be charging taxes to
todos los mexicanos,
to everyone
a todos
else,
los consumidores,
all the
porque
consumers,
todos pagamos
because
impuestos.
we all pay taxes.
O sea, la gente más humilde, la gente
Even
más
the
pobre,
most
la
humble
mercancía,
people, when
ahí va incluido.
they buy some food, that's
Nada más que los
they
conservadores
pay something, and then that's where the taxes are included.
no,
But the conservatives are the ones that say that they pay taxes.
todos los
They don't.
mexicanos,
Everybody's supposed to pay.
porque hasta la gente más
Because
humilde,
even the
un campesino, un obrero,
most
cuando compra algo,
humble person, when they pay for something, that's
incluido,
there's the taxes included.
es un impuesto al consumo, que es el que aumentó
A tax to consumption.
durante el periodo neoliberal.
That's what was added and
Fíjense,
incremented
la gran injusticia.
in the neoliberal
Aumentar el
period.
IVA
Look at the injustice. They added taxes
y condonar los impuestos a
and condone taxes to the ones on top.
pues eso es corrupción.
That's
Y
corruption.
eso lo vieron los de esta institución.
And you're telling me that this institution noticed it?
Ellos simulan
They simulate.
y dicen
They say
nuevas políticas públicas.
in the new
se tienen
public
que buscar
politics,
mecanismos
they need to find mechanisms
para que haya más control.
to have better control, right?
Y lo que hicieron
And what they did
fue crear aparatos burocráticos.
was to create bureaucratic apparatum
El Instituto
for transparency, supposedly. The Institute of
Anticorrupción
Anti-Corruption,
y así,
and so forth.
fiscalías en el periodo de más saqueo, porque todo era puro simulación.
Offices during the period of most sacking,
Entonces,
because it was all supposed.
nosotros
Of a
somos
simulation.
muy bien en eso. Tan
We are doing good on that. We're so good that
que
it's so much so that
me gustó muchísimo
I liked
la frase, ponla otra
the
vez,
fact, put that on the end,
la señora
of the lady
que tiene su contenido que dice
that
que
has the contents.
no es que hiciera falta presupuesto,
Is not that there was a lack of
es buenísimo
funds.
ese mensaje.
That message is really good.
O sea, ¿por qué no nos falta presupuesto?
How come we're not lacking
Porque no hay
funds?
corrupción.
Because there's no corruption.
Todos los programas
All the programs
y las magnas obras
and the great works of this presidency, without putting in debt the country,
y sin gasolinazos, agregaría yo,
without adding the fuel cost and taxes,
sin aumentar
budget is not missing.
del diésel.
Without adding prices of the diesel, gas, lighting,
No
power.
faltaba dinero,
It's the proof that there was no money missing,
sino que sobraban corruptos.
but there was corruption.
El
Overwhelming amount of
que hablé de la
corruptees.
reforma al artículo 28 de la Constitución,
Yesterday, when I talked about the reform of corruption to eliminate the consumption of saving the big companies of taxes, we saved 200,000 million pesos per year. In other words, the ones on top, they didn't pay 200 million thousand Mexican pesos that they had to pay, so that's corruption.
Entonces, y se va entendiendo.
So it is understood each time a little more. Everybody is paying now. Everybody's paying. And there's no more of that. There's nobody that doesn't pay anymore. They go to trials. And we're vigilant. If we see that a judge or a minister is acting up in a dishonest way, we denounce it with the corresponding department. The money of the people is being saved. So it's not corruption that public workers receive money as to how they are transferred with money with public functionaries of Campeche. I don't know the video, I haven't seen it, but we would need to see that. Of course, there's a lot of interest of wanting to try to copy us. It is talking about putting dirt on the fan. We've already passed through that. They're all the same. And even more when there's scandal of corruption in the conservative bloc. They're trying to, well, look around. That's not going to happen to me. They call me peje, but I'm not a lizard. So that's why I've been up here, resisting. If not, I would have been gone. They would have stepped all over me. They can't do it. And that is why the problem of the conservatives, they're so ambitious, they're very corrupt. Money drives them nuts. Their God, the real God, is money.
Eso lo decía el cura Hidalgo.
Hidalgo used to say that.
Ustedes les decía a los que los
You, he would tell them, the ones that were going through communication, your only God is money. And always we're speaking about that. That there needs to be a purification of public life. We need to do a renovation, a thick renovation of public works and life, and put aside that way of life that has been imposed, where the important thing is the material things. The fine clothing, the jewelry, the brand new cars, the residency buildings, the luxury apartments. Look at this Loreto Mola journalist, his apartments. I hope that he do a report on what he does. A show to autocriticism. They thought they were untouchable. But
se está llevando a cabo una transformación.
there's a transformation now being done, and what we want is to enforce cultural, moral, spiritual values. Today in the morning, we agreed that we're going to start a campaign of. It's already started, but it's not 100% as it's going to be made. A campaign to minimize, inhibit the consumption of drugs, especially the chemical ones, fentanyl, because those are terrible drugs. It's really grave, even in the US, really grave. Fortunately, it's not the same in our country. We have protection. With all due respect, we get protection. Our cultures. We get protections from our traditions. The way in which we act with a familiarity. A valuable art way that protects us is our family. Is the family in every which way. But that is really important. The values. So then we've got, for example, sad loss of life for violence, confrontations, but we don't have the same proportion of violence that is given in other countries when it comes to consumption. So the ones that lose their lives for overdosing, for the consumption of these chemicals in other countries is a lot more, a lot higher, sadly, that is happening in Mexico. So what we will always procure, because it's not only that we need to trust each other, that because our families and traditions and customs, we're going to make sure that there's no consumption to drugs, internal consumption. Now, we are reinforcing with all these social works, all these programs, we are enforcing with extending our moral, spiritual ways to combat corruption, to put aside the cheap luxuries, the fact that we want to triumph at all costs with no moral, the fact that you don't applaud to that one that has residencies and turned into this powerful person. Make sure that we notice that our conscience and to be happy within ourselves and with our brethren, and that only being good we can be happy. All of that. The moral lecture of Alfonso Reyes, all of that. And that the young people have options and alternatives, and not only they being called don't work, don't study, ninis, that they're not treated in a bad way, to attend to them really good, and also in the family that we get families dedicated to their young ones. We all know that nowadays to be able to earn the income in the family, we need to work, women and men, but not abandon the kids, the young ones. And these communication media companies, just as he or she drinks Coca-Cola and they eat chips, with that intensity, is take care of yourself of the drug consumption. Not a lot of them are going to like that, of course, but we're not pleasant to everybody. But we're going to keep saying that the pills, fentanyl and all these chemicals, they make them in these laboratories with these kitchens, and they use muriatic acid to do so. And in 2 months, they killed you. They end your life. Just like that. And now that we've gotten some messages, why don't you put that message when they're walking like zombies, that they even got offended in the U.S. And please forgive us, but we're not going to be copying that, and that there's no sufficient information. Yes, the images. There was complaints about that, but we're not going to be asking for permission, because even in the families, the whole information is not there, and we need to guarantee the right to information. We were talking about the vaping, 4 or 5 inoffensive substances, and then we do the analysis. There's 35 substances and cancer causing, worse than regular tobacco. Who was the one complaining about the fentanyl campaigns? Jesus can express that later. Well, who are the ones? Who are the ones that are complaining? Yeah, well, go ahead and put it on.
El fentanilo te engancha desde la primera vez. Esclaviza tu mente y tu cuerpo.
Fentanyl traps you from the beginning. Don't destroy your life. Fentanyl kills. Don't risk yourself. It's not worth it. If you need help, call the line of life. So we need to inform. Do you have any more?
Pero va a ser ya de una vez para que Claudio empiece a preparar a sus
But it's going to be right now, because Claudio needs to prepare his special people
Sí, pero
under
falta.
paying. Yes, but we need more. We need to destine more funds. We need to make an analysis of that. We need to speak to the people, to the young ones, what they listen to, and that's what we're going to invest on, because that's a plan. That's information. Because look, if this, go ahead, rat venom, gasoline, battery acid, ammonia, acetone, caustic sauce, it doesn't matter what chemicals you put in your body, they're all venomous, and your body gets damaged. If you need help, call the helpline. To live happy, you don't need to use anything. So we're going to be informing, because it's important. It's really important. What needs to be done will be done. And we have the funds to it. You were talking about the judges. Do you know if there's in the act of these certain judges that are being worked on overall, considering what you said about the Secretary of Marines, about these judges that have been using legislation in marital cases, utilizing other type of legislation? If you can tell us how many judges are involved, and Secretary Rosa Isela, what do you think about that Instituto of Defensory Public, Salvador Leiva, declarations that he made and renounced his job, and that he didn't have any conditions for the defense of certain people that were implied in, accused of being involved in the kidnapping of Roberto Wallace? They were victims of these espionage of Pegasus. Want to know if the executive can intervene with this vulnerability. And he was also stating of a connection of Wallace that is working as Secretary of Accounts in Piña. He would state that this situation would be making this vulnerable and this involved. So I want to know if there's going to be any interventions of the executive in your part, and what is going to be done with that claim of Pegasus against you.
No nos queremos meter por lo pronto, ¿no? Porque si lo tienen ustedes como un tema de los incluidos.
This is about the ones that were included in the liberties, anticipated liberties, or amnesties.
Muchas gracias, presidente. De la primera pregunta que nos hace, con mucho gusto le damos la información sobre las denuncias presentadas. Aquí lo hemos señalado.
We've given this out, but we can do a quick intervention and give it to you really quick. So the other question about the case is what has to be done with, has to do with some claims of this lady that has this people denounced and are still recluded in the penal system. What I can tell you in general is that if it's one of those cases that are being taken care of and they're considered for pre-liberations, they've not been easy cases, and we have arguments of the judgment and the public ministries where effectively, since it hasn't happened in the same other cases, in this case we do have a action of we haven't been able to advance. I've always had the obligation to tell the truth, and in the cases of Mrs. Wallace, effectively of the victims that are complaining. We don't have a positive response from the judges, but we're going to keep working around the denouncements that have been presented. But there is really no pre-liberation, a anticipated liberation of what's going to happen soon. That's what I wanted to tell you. I don't have proof about that last question. I'm not sure, Mr. President, if in the case of the person that is denouncing Mr. Leiva, I don't know that one. We're not in that investigation, but we can revise it. We can check it out. Well, we're going to finish up. We went over, we're going to get yelled at. So both of you are ready for tomorrow. For tomorrow. Thank you. Only two. Only two. There you go. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to stay with us. Daniel, muchas gracias por tu apoyo y aportación al canal. Thank you very much, everybody, for helping out. And whoever can help out this channel that is growing slowly but steadily, of course, will be greatly, greatly appreciated. We will see you tomorrow morning, the same hour, same day, just different date. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all. And I'll see you again soon. Don't forget, we got the other channel that you can go ahead and find this, where we talk about all there is to do about Hollywood and Johnny Depp and everything to do with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself, and God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.